Good morning, good afternoon, hello everybody. This is 2A Radio, the African Action Network radio and television station. Today is Monday. We are here with a brand new edition, and sitting with me today is Mr. Abraham Olu Colley. Today we're going to be discussing about the executive clemency that was granted by President George Weah. And this is just a reminder. We just want to know whether or not the 500 names of inmates requested by the president, whether the government of Liberia has rested with that case. And we also want to look at executive clemency, what this is all about. Do we understand an executive clemency? What is it? Or is there any authority from the Ministry of Justice as to how government supposed to handle executive clemency? We will look into this matter and other events. But until then, let's join Abraham Olukoli, who will give us some update as to what is happening in Liberia. Abraham?
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. It's a pleasure again being with you this morning. And I'd love to say good morning, good afternoon to everyone who are following our live. And whatsoever you're following us or watching us, interviews on Inside Liberia on the African Action Network radio television. So, like you rightly say, I'm Abraham Cully, and too many things happening in our country, too many things happening around us
Mm.
in in our country as well. So, it's our it's our tax, and we are obligated to inform our people on a daily basis about those happenings. We as journalists, we have been classified as watchdogs, those who go around, those who get all of the necessary information and disseminate to our audience as well. So we're here this morning to inform them on some of the happenings in Liberia, who are in diaspora or who are part of the world or who are not informed. We have come again to inform them about some of the major occurrence in our country.
So what is the latest update in Liberia? What is happening? What are some of the things that are happening in Liberia?
Oh, well, I would take the lesser one first, and the major one be at the last because we'll go into it deeper. Uh,
Mm.
as you may be aware, since 2008, when the first census was being conducted at the time, where people say, oh, Liberia is 3.5 million population, 3 from this, 3 from that. And, since then, people have been assuming, and 2022 uh, census came to a standstill where the director general was being invited to plenary, and he admitted that the process was being halted due to low budgetary allocation. One, two, those materials or equipment or gadget that will be used to carry out the exercise were the hold of the process. So after the appearance on Monday of last weekend, the consignment of 21,000 tablets and 21,000 power banks arriving to the country on the Roberts International Airport, and then it was then picked up by the director and authority of that agency to carry on the exercise and the issue of the budgetary allocation, whether fund is sufficient or insufficient funds. That one is still with the financing committee of for the House of Representative or probably the House's arm. So
Mm.
as we speak now, the Director General in an interview said uh, those who wanting to be supervisor or enumerator should apply electronically, meaning online. It should be an online application that you're going to write. You're not carrying no hard copy. And those who be selected, you want to visit the website of the institution or probably those public places in the county that you want to apply for. You want to leave Monrovia and say you want to work in Baza, then you expect them to transport you. But if you be in Bon County, specifically, or probably Lima County, or Lofa County where you reside and apply from there. When you are qualified, you stay right there and you be assigned in one of those districts or one of those towns or one of those villages or village, uh, as you may prefer, to carry on the exercise or probably carry on your duties. So he also followed that if you have been qualified, you're going to do your work, and the work going to start uh, in June. June 19, 2022 of this year, the process of the census going to kick off, and there will be a witness day on the radio that those who, people who are in the rural part of our country who are farming, they're going to be an advertisement on, carry on, and also a witness that people be informed to stay home, so that they can be counted, so that we can know the current population or probably the current status or inhabitants residing in our country, Liberia. So as it stands, we await June 19, so that latest can start the entire counting process of our citizens in the country. Now we lay
So,
that to
so,
rest.
so, so the census going to be taking place June the 19th.
Yeah, June 19, 2022,
Is
the
it
process is
only,
going to kick off.
is it only, how long is that going to be?
So it's going to last for a month, because 2 weeks, 2 weeks is going to last for months according to them.
Okay.
So the team going to be very, very much, because they are hiring 18,000 young people.
Okay.
18,000 young people to carry on the census or the
Mhm.
database collection or the data collection. So
Yeah.
18,000 young people, if they are working in 1 month's time, according to them, or the director general of that agency, they're going to meet up with that target. And the application process begins from the 1st of March to the 31st. And so at the end of this month, application deadline will be closing, and they'll be talking about reviewing the various applicant or probably going through the documents, those who qualify. And the requirement is just if you have reached 18 years, maybe you have to graduate, or if you are not asked to graduate, but once you know how to use smartphones, you know how to use power bank, you know how to enter in, once you know about, electronic device, you
Mm.
can be part of the process.
You have any ideas to how much has been set aside to pay each of
Uh,
those?
that of which is yet to, be
Okay.
exposed or probably be provided to the media as to whether how much you're going to pay each of those database collector.
Okay. So is there any other development?
All right. As you may be aware, the long term, Samukai issue, as it stands, the president providing clemency on, local county senator elect J. Bonnie
Mm.
Samukai, that the money he owe the government or owe the army people or the entire force of the arm, should be, so the president clemency came down, but then all of a sudden, the House of Senate declared the seat vacant. And since it
Okay.
declared vacant, the National Elections Commission, headed by Madam, Commissioner Director Brown Lasana, came out with a budget that has been presented to them that they need close to 2 million, 1 point something a million, but close to $2 million to carry on the entire process within the county, which of course caught the attention of Liberians forming on different platforms on different radio stations, that the fund was too sufficient to, only too many to conduct just a county election, just a one seat in a county election. Are they? The question was to them: are they going to buy new vehicles? Are they going to print new ballot paper? Yes, we agree. They want to print new ballot paper, but the father, they're not going to get new hotel. They're not going to do this. They're not going to hire new people, because there are people who work with net. They got upper and lower
Mm.
profile, right? You got two magistrates operating in local county, and the two
Yeah.
magistrates are upper and lower, and then they are going to be charged with responsibility to bring on board those qualified, or those qualified workers, those qualified workers to work in line, so that the election can be conducted. But coming up with such a budget was too high, and all of a sudden, finance minister also spoke on that it was too high. They're going to scrutinize the budget, but as we speak, I don't know whether they have been scrutinized or yet, because finance minister is yet to respond. And I think he's out of the country as well, because two occasions he was, to appear before the lower and upper house, and then he appealed that he's not in the country. But all of a sudden, 2 days ago, the National Elections Commission chairperson called a press conference releasing the official date, time set up for registration, time set up to verify candidate or public candidate registration, a whole lot of process. And then the election date is set up for May 10th, 2022 in local county. So as he said the same thing we explained. The magistrate are charged with the responsibility to, carry on the recruitment process, those who are qualified, and then they're going to start the process from there, so that activities leading to the process, campaigning, registering, those who, wanting to contest, can come in the process as well. So That's it from the National Elections Commission standpoint.
Election is set for May 10th, you said.
Yeah, May 10th, that'll be my birthday, May 10th, 2022.
Okay, with all of the discussions regarding
Mhm,
Samukai's the clemency and every other situation with the misstep on the part of the senators, where the president pro tempore declared the seat vacant, is said
mhm,
that the National Election Commission is going to conduct election
mhm.
on May the 10th.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides that, we're going to have more discussion on that, but let's hear from you. I mean, you're the boss
Mm.
for today.
I'm not the boss, but
Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the next issue that you have on your plate?
All right. Yes, back 2021, 2020 ending, 2021 beginning, journalists of the Bone Journalists Association, BOJA for short, one Chris, uh, who worked for the Cady radio station in Bone County,
Mm,
Radio Farrakhan 93.7, got shot around the Toko village, go heading to Lofa County on the Lofa Road, Lofa Highway, where that information, the next morning we got up, we're all at the police station. At the time, I was staying in Bone County, at the time, working with Super Bungies.
right.
We
Right.
were all at the radio station, galvanizing information on how the process went. But the owner of the farm actually made it to the police in Bone County that he shot Chris, who worked with Paraclete, the Cali radio station, due to or carry on the art of you know tip. Carry on that kind of art being
Hmm.
from going on mission in the night. According to the story, Chris was on duty. He left on the radio station, went home, another person took over for him. A friend in the community, not knowing the guy is a criminal.
Okay.
He's a notorious criminal. The police got record on him. His name is Prince. So the the Prince guy came and woke up Chris by 12 in the morning, 12 a.m. Liberia time, and say, "Oh, my man, my mom said you gotta carry me on the farm to Lofa Road. I want to go pick up her to care of Phoebe. I just received call." And Chris is a motorcyclist. The rural media doesn't have money to pay staff, so you got to do things on your own to get money. So Chris is a motorcyclist, commercial motorcycle. He usually run his back, and in the
Mm,
evening time, he go to work. So after doing all that, turning around, he went, and then Chris came out with the bag because he been knowing the guy in the community as a cool guy, but don't know that the kind of thing the guy is in. So he said to put it back outside, try carrying the guy when they get to the bridge. Say, I mean, I ran out stopping. According to the information we got
mm,
up on this, yeah. So the papa say when it stop, Chris stop the bag and say, "My man, boy, I can't go further." He said, "My man, just pack the bag away for me. Pack the bag where he can." So the Prince Manor is carrying Chris. Chris too feel like the plane going back can't reach there. So he
okay.
packed it back, and when it went, had him said, "But what you brought me to this village for at this hour?" He said, "Coming for your man. Where am I at?" The Prince man said, "My man, oh, that different mission king on. We get quote. We want to go take one. If I go to go sell it tomorrow." So it was kind of like the Chris man tried to turn the bag around after
Mm,
Prince William taking the goat. Chris now, Johnny Chris tried to turn his motorbike around to pick up the Hardy Puppet, took a single barrel, started chasing them. So mistakenly, the Prince guy, the notorious criminal, was able to make a way. He escaped the scene, came to the phone, and then they shot Chris that just had he met his untimely death. So we have been following that. So since then, the case of been whole fast story was been sent to the non-judicial cycle court in Bone County, the regional court as well. That
right.
handle cases from Bone, Lofa, and Nimba, and later
Right.
on take appeal to the Temple of Justice. So since then, we haven't yet that, but 2 days ago there was this final
It's a
verdict that
ruling.
came up from
Okay.
the ruling that came up from that end that the papi were being
The farm
guilty
owner was found
guilty.
guilty.
Yes,
What's
because
what's about
the
the
Prince guy.
right?
Prince is still on the run, and they are still in search of
Okay.
him. When he's been apprehended, he'll be turned over to the welfare authorities so that
Okay. Okay.
they can carry. They
So
can,
how
carry
long
on
has
success.
the farmer been sentenced for? How long is it going to be? Is it life imprisonment or what?
A life imprisonment because of murder case. Life imprisonment.
None. Um. Anyway, I think you have to find the ruling so that we can be very
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So
So,
I will do that. I will check that and get back.
okay, that's good.
But I show if it's not lifetime, it's probably 10 or 5 years in prison, something like because he reported himself
Okay.
to the law as well. So
Okay.
that's it
Whatever the
for now.
case
And
is, the update is good, but let's get the ruling and then we can properly inform our listeners as to the actual decision from the court, since this fellow, killed Craze, the journalist, and
mhm,
the court has found him guilty. The
mhm,
sentence, we want to know the detail of the sentence, whether he was sentenced, for murder or for
yeah.
attempted murder or whatever the situation is. Let's get a ruling. We know exactly what to do. Besides
Okay.
those two issues, is there another issue we can talk about?
Let me just speed up with this. In the midst of the scene killing activities of probably the same murdering stuff,
Hmm.
a lady, one Cynthia uh, Colley, the sister of a 15-year-old boy, is calling on the judicial actor in Bone County, the same county as well,
Hmm.
to speed up the case involving the alleged murder of her brother Jenkins Kwali by a man identified as Abraham Conley. That's a Muslim man, a Mandingo man by tribe. According to her brother was being working with Mr. Conley in his garage as a mechanic. And then,
Okay.
yeah, assisting and mistakenly, she said when questioning the eyewitness about her brother's death, she was told that the late Jingin Gwali had damaged, an item from his boss. And I, according to her, the eyewitness that said, provided information to media personnel, said, thereby beating on little Jenkins to death. So that I can't
Wow.
believe that damaging something for your boss will cut the heart so badly to beat you until you can pass up. But so be it. It can be. Those people who want to, deny the fact it
Do you
can be,
have
but it can
information
be.
how
Yes.
old? Do you have information as to how old the fellow was?
I'm yet to get his age. That's
Okay.
why
Okay.
I'm still trying to verify. I'm yet to get his age as well.
Okay. So, on those three information, I guess we need to follow up on
Yeah.
the National Election Commission's
Mm-hmm.
decision to conduct a by-election,
Yes.
and we also going to follow up on the death of Chris, and the guilty verdict against the farmer. And then
Mm-hmm.
we also try to follow on these two issues. But today we have a very important topic which we want to discuss, and that has to do with what you started on earlier, executive clemency. Executive clemency is in our constitution is the right accrue or a right presidential
Mm-hmm.
power for the president to grant executive clemency. But our study shows that in other jurisdiction or in other part of the world, executive clemency has is divided into two parts. It's either formal or informal executive clemency. In this case, the fact, as we know it, is that Bernie Samukai was indeed the winner for the Lufa County midterm election,
Mm-hmm.
and Samukai was denied his seat. I say denied because he won the seat, and this matter went before the Supreme Court, and the court took a decision that Samukai was the winner, and better information in the process, and Samukai indeed was denied his seat. Why in the process? The president pro tempore declared the seat vacant. Now, this is a wrong that is going to go down in history. The president pro tempore or the Liberian Senate
Mm-hmm.
should not have declared the seat vacant. It was not within their purview to do so, even assuming that was the vice president, the presiding officer of the Senate, should have written the National Election Commission to inform them as to the vacancy. But as it stands, from your information you're providing, that is about June 17 or May 10? May 10 going to be the by-election, right?
Yeah, May 10.
May 10th, going to be the by-election. So it means then that all the issues that were not right, they are going to be written into the historical record of the country. That there was once an election where Brandon Samukai won the election, and yeah, the story will be told. So today we want to look at executive clemency because in the process, the president of Liberia, George Manuel Weah,
Mm-hmm.
did grant executive clemency to Brandon Samukai and also mandated the Justice Ministry to forward 500 names of inmates. Now, we are bringing this story out because we do not have the details as to whether or not the Justice Ministry has submitted 500 names of inmates that were to be granted clemency. What I know of is that on the Executive Mansion website, 54 inmates were given executive clemency. That's what is written on the Executive Mansion website. But as per the instruction, when the executive clemency was being read by the Minister of State, Nathaniel McGill, he indicated that instructions have been given to the Justice Ministry to submit 500 names of inmates that were to be given granted executive clemency. As of today's date, I'm sure the names of those inmates should be published in the local dailies so that Liberians can know, those inmates that were given, that were granted executive clemency. But there's something important that we want to talk about. That is, there is always a source of authority. The Constitution, Article 59, speaks about executive clemency. But in other jurisdictions, there is always an administrative law or a statute that will further explain what an executive clemency is. I do not know whether there is any drafted by the Justice Ministry explaining how an executive clemency should be carried out. Neither I do not know whether there's any statute explaining Article 59 as to what executive clemency should be like. But from our own reading, we have come to realize that, like the American situation, you have uh, an informal executive clemency and a formal executive clemency. And I do not think there's anything wrong where the Justice Ministry should not draft a legal authority to govern an executive clemency. Because there's a lot of questions people are asking. All right. In the case of Samukai, people want to know whether or not Samukai was granted an executive clemency or his clemency was an issue of suspending his sentence or suspending his payment. So, because there is no legal authority governing an executive clemency, and because either the national legislature has failed to further explain what an executive clemency is, thus the issue is like a wrong precedent that's going to be in the historical book of our country. Liberians need to know who are those that were granted executive clemency. Executive clemency is not just a pronouncement from the president of Liberia. Like in the case of the United States, there's a whole there's a document, a dossier on how legal authority is governed or governed the executive clemency. In the formal executive clemency, inmates are allowed. In fact, there is a form where inmates are allowed to write a formal letter seeking for asking the president to grant them executive clemency. And there are eligibility criteria for those who will be filing for a petition to be granted an executive clemency. The procedures are all spelled out. What is wrong for Liberia to follow good practices Is it that those who are governing, like the Ministry of Justice, are they not aware? Do not they see what is happening in other countries? Executive clemency is not just, okay, Article 59 says it. What is an executive clemency? What is reprieve? What is pardon? How should these things be carried out? It's not just the president making the mere pronouncement. Who are qualified for an executive clemency? How should executive clemency be granted? Is it going to be is Liberia going to adopt a formal means of granting an executive clemency, or is it going to be an informal way of doing it? Because we do not have any legal authority governing executive clemency, it's like a loose situation. Even as we speak, there is no clarity as to some of the procedural steps. All right. Brandon Samukai case is just a situation that I think that the government wanted to use for face saving. Brandon Samukai, as it stands, he was granted an executive clemency. His right, in our view, were restored. If that is the situation, we have heard from some legal man we call one of the former Associate Justice here, Cabinet General, was on his show. He explained to us, and he believed very strongly that Brandon Samukai has a right. As far as executive clemency was granted him, he has a right to have been certificated and inducted into office. Now, government is going to be wasting $2 million. I use the word wasting because if you would have granted Brandon Samukai to take a seat, that $2 million would have been in the Liberian coffer, being used for other developmental purposes. But the politics of the day is also depleting the coffers of the country. So you're going to have another round of election, and that's going to cost another money. At the same time, the government of Liberia has agreed to pay money owed the former soldiers. So you got to realize, just because of the politics surrounding the election of Brandon Samukai, there's a lot that the government is going to lose. But that's not the concern here. Our concern is what is stopping the Justice Ministry to draft a legal authority to govern an executive clemency, not just for George Weah, but for other presidents to come. So the Constitution speaks of an executive clemency. How is it done, or how should it be done? How should the president grant executive clemency? Is the president going to ask the Justice Ministry for those inmates to write a formal letter requesting the president to pardon them? Or is it that President wake up one morning from the blue sky and just say, okay, I need this amount of names to grant executive clemency? Who are those to be eligible for an executive clemency? Under the American situation, the formal way of doing it is that the inmates file a petition requesting the president to grant the executive clemency. Those petitions, the president takes them and file in the office of the Justice Ministry. There should be an antonym for executive clemency, meaning that lawyer should be there to receive all of these petitions. It's a year-in basis. I mean, inmates at the prison should see their own situation and just write the president, the office of the president, asking for a pardon. Under this situation, it is the other way around. The president is start asking the Justice Ministry to give 500 names. How far has that gone? Or sooner or later, we are going to forget about that, right? But if the president did grant an executive clemency and also in that pronouncement asked the Justice Ministry to submit 500 names, it is their honor obligation to inform Liberians as to the status of that decision. If for any reason there's a contrary view or there is other decision, yet the government should still inform Liberians. This is not a club. Those in authority, they are running a government. And the Constitution says they are under obligation to inform Liberians as to decisions that are made on a day-to-day basis. the functions of government, the people of Liberia need to know. So the fact that there is no legal authority governing executive clemency besides the constitutional provision, we can clearly say there is no standard for consideration of clemency to those who are to be pardoned by the president of Liberia. We hope this situation will send a signal, not just the justice ministry, but for those who are even at the legislature. There are constitutional provisions that require statutory interpretation. And I think this is one of those cases that the national legislature should, by now, have a statutory explanation as to how an executive clemency is to be governed. If the national legislature does not do this, it is also an obligation on the justice ministry to ensure that there is a legal authority. It could be some administrative document that will explain the justice ministry has the authority to do so. So, whatever the situation is, I hope this will be an eye opening for those who are lawyers in the justice ministry to take charge of this matter. It's not just about this executive clemency, but it should be a concern as to how executive clemency will be handled in Liberia. There are other legal documents or other legal authority from other countries that are all around. You do thorough research, you can draft a very good document for this kind of a situation. So we believe that the justice ministry is not to let sleeping dog lies. The president requested that you submit 500 names. Have you done that? If yes, have you informed Liberians? And I think if there were any 500 names, those names should be published for Liberians to be aware. Another critical issue even is if the government decided to grant pardon to 500 inmates, the next question is, what is the government going to do? Are there jobs for these 500 inmates that will come out of prison? Or are there means to rehabilitate these persons, these 500 names? Is the government of Liberia going to put these 500 inmates that come out of jail to some training facility? Are they going to put them in school? Or are they going to take them from prison and put them back into society? How good is that decision to the fragile situation Liberia is already having? So it's not just about waking up and then deciding to grant pardon. There's a whole lot need to be done. If you're taking 500 names, 500 inmates from prison, where are you going to put them? Are you going to put them back in the society? What are the process? I mean, you're running the government, you should be able to tell Liberian, look, we are having a program for the 500 inmates that we're going to take out of prison. The president going to pardon them, and then we must have a rehabilitation program for them, or whatever you call it. So the political aspect is over, but the administrative things need to be done. Or else you're going to have because if the man comes from prison, he doesn't have a job, he's not in school, and let's assume he was a criminal and then he was placed behind bar, and then you decided to say, okay, you know what, we're going to forgive this man. What are you going to do with him? To put him right back in the society when he can't find a job to do? He's definitely going to go get back to stealing and go to having arrested again and put him back in prison. Some of these folks are, hardcore criminals. No disrespect to any of them who are in prison. Condition would have caused them to be there. And it's the right of the president to forgive any of them. But if the president is putting out 500 names, Liberia should be concerned about that. It should be concerned. And if you don't have a place to put them there, what are you going to do? Okay, send it to their relatives. As good as that sound, using mercy in the interest of those persons, there's no way you can make a decision. There's no way you can make a decision and allow Liberians to be the victim at the end of the day. So how you going to do it is all up to the president and his lieutenants. You must, of course, by now have a strategy. The strategy is not just going to be with you. This is not uh, uh, one of those security issues that you say, well, we cannot tell Liberians. If you are releasing inmates into society, how are you going to do it? You need to tell Liberians we're releasing 500 Liberians who are behind bars, and we're taking these steps to ensure that these people are not going to get into society, and Liberians, peaceful Liberians, become victims as a result of these guys coming back in the society. But right, you should have place to carry them. You release them. Are you going to carry them to Grand Judah facility? Is the Grand Judah facility okay to host 500 inmates? Or are you going to do what? Have agriculture project that you take some of those folks there? Do you have some carpentry shop? Do you have some training grounds for these folks? Or you're just going to release them because you have the right to grant an executive clemency? You grant executive clemency, you put them back into society. Whatever the situation is, we just thought to raise these issues so that those of you who are handling these matters to advise the president, you can do it right and help save society. The first issue we have said here is, hey, the Justice Ministry has an obligation, or the national legislature. You should take Article 59 and expound on it, explain it, design a law that will explain how an executive clemency should be exercised. There's a lot to be done. We can sit there and name all of those things. You guys know how to do the best of research, make comparative analysis as to what is happening in other countries and draft the best of document for this issue. And the next thing we talk about is the president said 500 inmates, you should send the name. Have you submitted the 500 names? Or what? Or is it one of those issues by the time it's like wildfire? After the fire blazed, later on, it just cooled down. This has to do with the Constitution of Liberia. The exercise therein, if you make a pronouncement in exercise of those provisions or any of the provisions, you need to reach the end result. Hence, we think that the Justice Ministry, they have the obligation to tell Liberians whether you have submitted 500 names to the president's office for an executive clemency. Even with that, we have had problem with that because guess what? The clemency was announced before the request for the 500 names. It should have been the other way around. You should have gotten the 500 names before the clemency was announced. But because you did not get the 500 names, you make the pronouncement and then you call on the Justice Ministry, is the reverse. Howbeit, you as legal-minded persons at the Justice Ministry, the obligation is on you. And we are watching each and every one of you to see how far you can go with this matter. We will keep reminding you on the election, the May 10 scheduled election. Well, there's nothing we can do. All we did is to point out these fundamental errors. If for any reason you didn't see the reason to correct those situations and you let it go, well, the history will be written tomorrow. Having said those, these are the cardinal issues we thought we could discuss this morning. That executive clemency is not a situation of, is not about a decision. It has to do with how these decisions are reached. How do we release people from prison? Is the president only going to make the pronouncement? Are we going to allow those persons to speak from their mind, regret of every situation, every act they ever committed, every crime they ever committed? They write a petition, they write a letter, you look at the letter, you say, okay, John Brown, okay, we see the sincerity of him. We're going to indeed recommend his name to the president's office for a clemency. When you follow all of these procedures, then the president get a final list. Then when the time comes, he announced the names of those who had applied for an executive clemency, and the president has pardoned them. Or the president on his own volition can do it. There's no catch, but there must be a legal authority governing the process of how executive clemency should be done. You guys can read further document or further comparative uh, governing bodies, and you can get the way out as to how you can form this one of these documents for Liberia. Having said those, this is 2A Radio. We've been broadcasting from Pennsylvania, the United States of America, and we're going to be here next time. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. And we say, Abraham, thank you. In the background is Patient Blair. We also say thank you so much for being there. We appreciate each and every one of you. For those of you who are listening, we also say thank you. Ask your questions or help us with the discussion. We will be glad to follow and read through those comments that you're going to be making. Thank you again. Have a pleasant, wonderful day. This is 2A Radio, African Action Network. Until then, bye for now.